Hey guys, Caleb here with DSLR Video Shooter, and this is my new favorite lens build. It is a modified lens using a bunch of off-the-shelf components that we're going to break down in this video. So here is the image using all of the stuff I've put on this lens. And now we're going to break down each one of these components and how you can customize a look and take any lens and really make it your own. So the reason I'm doing this video is I did a review of the NiSi Cinema Primes. I love those lenses, and in that video I talked about how I prefer clean lenses and create a more character-filled image, but if I need to, I can go back to super duper clean. And that's what's awesome about these NiSi lenses. They don't have chromatic aberration and all that other stuff that we traditionally have to deal with when it comes to budget lenses. So let's dive in and talk about taking a lens and ending up with whatever this is. But first, a quick disclaimer. I asked NiSi to send me a matte box and some filters. They did that for me free of charge, but they are not sponsoring this video. This video is, however, supported by those of you who have purchased my camera guides, LUTs, and camera gear. I've launched the Cineback for FX3 recently, and I'm super stoked to get that in your guys' hands. And we have a brand new guide over at the Academy, which covers tabletop filmmaking from start to finish, all the nuts and bolts. Check the links in the description to learn more, and thank you guys so much for the support. Now let's get down to building a custom lens and putting a bunch of things in front of this 50mm. Let me go ahead and remove all of the filters and get down to our first modification. Okay, so now the image is significantly cooler and more contrasty. So we've removed two things, but we still have the first modification, and that is going to be an anamorphic adapter. So like I said, I'm using the NiSi 50mm lens here, but mounted to the front, I have added the Motion 1.33 times anamorphic adapter. It's around $1,000, and if you pick one up, it comes with all the rings needed to adapt to different lenses. So I use the included 77 to 67mm adapter ring, threw on the anamorphic adapter, and it actually looks and acts just like an anamorphic lens right out of the box. There's a button on the side of the adapter to allow you to align it perfectly so you don't have any weird distortion going on. And this is going to take our 50mm and give us a 50mm vertical field of view, but we're going to gain on the horizontal field of view. And here's the math for those who care, but we're actually gaining information on the left and the right of our frame, which is fantastic and obviously looks a lot more cinematic than a 16:9 aspect ratio. And it's just really fun to work with framing like this. Right now I'm at T2.8 on the lens, and it's very, very sharp. That's what's so nice about these NiSi lenses. But I could open this all the way up to 1.9. Now this is going to be a little overexposed, but if I get my focus point correct here, it's still alarmingly sharp for an anamorphic adapter. I mean, again, we're wide open at 1.9, which is really not what you're supposed to be doing with anamorphic adapters. Now let me go back to 2.8, and that is our first mod, adding that anamorphic adapter. That's the most expensive thing I've done to this lens. Now let's move forward with some filtration. But before we do, we need a matte box. So for this setup, I'm going with the NiSi C5. This thing's awesome because it's a clamp-on matte box, so I don't need to use 15mm rods, and it starts at $200. If you pick up the C5 matte box, it actually comes in a case that I've been using, which normally I use my own cases for gear, but this one actually makes a ton of sense. There's room for the matte box, all of the accessories, step-ups, and rotatable trays that we'll talk about a little bit later. It can take one 4x5.6 filter, and it comes with a tray for that, as well as a 100x100mm or 4x4 filter. That is the base kit, but if you spend a little more, you gain access to two rotating filter trays that go in that 100x100mm filter tray. One option is a fader ND, so you can add ND, has a really nice geared knob, and you can even add a motor with a 15mm rod attachment, which is just awesome. And the other is a circular polarizer, which if you don't know what that is, it allows you to cancel out or control reflections. And wow, does this make such a difference. Here is a shot of a painting in an old estate in England. We've got light coming through a window in the background, and you really can't see anything. But if I rotate this circular polarizer, you can see how the entire painting pops off of the wall because we're now able to reject or cancel out or control reflections on the painting. This also works amazingly well when you're out in nature and filming trees and water and cars, really anything that has reflections, which is a lot of things in the world, you'll be able to control using a circular polarizer. So it's a huge tool and something really nice to have in a matte box with a dial to be able to control that. So going back to this particular setup, what I'm going to add is a streak filter. So this is also from NiSi, and there's several different colors available. So let me go ahead and slide this into frame here, just like so. And as you can see, we now have the orange streak filter. Now, normally I wouldn't have this obnoxious tube light blaring at the camera, but it kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like from a very extreme standpoint. Something like this is a lot more up my style, just kind of a little bit of a streak. And if I pull up my phone here, you can see what a point light source is going to look like when you have something super strong like that. So that is one option. They also sell one in blue, but it also kind of just warms up the image a little bit. So I really like that whole warm, cool thing. And this filter allows me to add just a little bit of warmth and work with those flares, which is fun. But there is something still missing for me, and that is going to be some kind of diffusion filtration. Now, my favorite diffusion filter of all time is by far the Tiffen Smoke 2 filter. I've done a whole video on it. You can check that out. Unfortunately, this particular matte box does not have round filter support, but I 3D printed a 4x4 adapter for my Tiffen Smoke, and I'm going to use that in the 4x4 or 100x100 filter tray. So let me go ahead and install that real quick. And this is what things look like with that filter. You have this gorgeous volumetric vibe to this shot now. It's taking all the light, bouncing around the room, and it's just giving us a nice low contrast across the board. So again, you can check out that other video to learn more about the smoke filter. But this is one filtration or diffusion option. There are so many available. Next, let's take a look at two diffusion filters from NiSi that you can purchase in a 4x5.6 form factor for use with this matte box. So again, here has been our setup with the smoke filter from Tiffen and the flare filter. Let's get rid of those and go to a control image with nothing. As you can see, tons of contrast, no flares. And now we're going to add NiSi's black mist filter so we can take a look at what that looks like. We've got nice halation at the highlights of the image, and I will jump over to the white mist and see what that looks like. And after a couple of seconds, we'll do a side by side so you can kind of see the differences between the two. Okay, we're back with the streak filter as well as the smoke 2 filter to kind of wrap things up and talk about another option for those who are probably thinking to themselves, why in the world would you put that much crap in front of your lens and have this huge monstrous setup? Well, if you're really not into that, maybe something like this is more your speed. This is the NiSi Swift, which I've used when traveling, and this is actually the exact setup I run when I'm out and about and don't want to carry a beast of a rig. And this thing is phenomenal. So it's very interesting in that it is a stackable system, but there's no magnet. So there's a lot of magnet systems out there. This one just kind of friction fits, and it surprisingly works great. So at the base, you have a basic fader ND that goes in front of your lens, threads on like any other filter, but then you have the option to mix and match other filters. So you could add another polarizer and beef up your ND so you have an additional 4 stops for those insanely bright scenarios. Maybe you're out in the desert and you need a lot of ND, but they also make a diffusion filter that goes on the front of all of that if you want. And if you go with all of the different filter combinations, you have, I think, up to 15 different combos that you can stack with this thing. And it comes with a front lens cap that goes on front of the entire setup, so you can throw it in your backpack or whatever and not worry about collecting dust. So if you want something really lightweight and I want a lot of filter options, this is a really strong system. But of course, I these days am really into these big rigs and big filters, big lenses, anamorphic, all of that fun stuff. So that's gonna wrap up this video on taking a basic lens and customizing the look completely using filtration as well as some optics. Now, there are other things I would like to try in the future when it comes to this idea. One is Motion's new adapter thing that goes on the back of your lens and allows you to kind of tweak things even further. So we have optics in front, obviously with this anamorphic adapter, but I'd be curious to maybe try that out and see what that looks like by adding something to the back of the lens. And of course, there's so many other filters out there, but I thought this would be an interesting video to talk about how to take clean lenses and why we want clean lenses so that we can create our own custom look as you've seen in this video. So links to everything mentioned will be down in the description. And thank you guys so much for the support. For those of you who have purchased Cine back, which I've used in this video, thank you so much. Your gear is on its way soon. If you want to support the channel, check out all the stuff I sell down in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next video.